Who's taken a dear leap to the top of the class, and whose title's hopes have taken a denton? It's the Oulton Park driver grades.
Yes, hello and welcome back to the British Touring Car podcast. We are back with the driver grades and predictions from Oulton Park this time out. And some drivers have surprised, some drivers have failed to impress, and there have certainly been some changes this week in the class structure, so we say. Shall we get straight into it, mate?
I will do. Once I've thanked you for that perfect intro. Thank you very much for that. Much appreciated.
You sod. um, We'll get straight into it with Sutton then. After the high standards that he's been setting so far this season, taking several A stars along the way, he's actually down to a B this time out, and that is B for bloody stupid move in race 3.
Be more sensible.
Be more sensible, yes.
Yeah.
Apart from that, he had a really good, consistent weekend, which was probably nothing out of the ordinary for him until he made that silly decision.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. It's a B for Ash Sutton. Camish is a C, which is basically where he's at the minute, which is just, it's fine, but it's not top of the class. And
it's not thrilling. Could do better, basically.
Yeah, it's all gone a bit sort of dropped off a cliff for him, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a small cliff at the moment. Not like White Cliffs of Dover, but...
No, it's more of a old Hunstanton Longshore drift style cliff.
That's a terrible analogy.
It's a C for Camish.
Okay.
It's a C for Camish.
It's a C for Rowbottom as well. Obviously, had that brake failure in race 1, then had to run hard tyre in race 2, but then made really good progress in race 3. A weekend that he wants to move on from pretty quickly. Not his fault with the brake failure, can't do much about that, and was running fairly well up until then.
Yep, agreed. Osborne also gets a C. Would be a D, but his race 3 elevates him slightly. I'm not overly impressed. Osborne on the whole. I mean, there's been flashes this season, to be fair to Osborne.
They have.
But you're fourth in the Jack Sears when you've got by far the best car. Okay, you've had some bad luck along the way, don't get me wrong, but you're also behind 3 drivers that are new to the championship. I think that is, well, 2 that are brand new to the championship, 1 is into a second year.
Yeah. Moving on to Ingram in the Hyundai and Mr. Consistency himself, another B this time out. I'm not sure he's had a weekend without a B. He's doing exactly what he needs to at this stage of the season to be in the hunt.
And he's potentially already in Sutton's head with how he handled race 3, which early on in the season, with half the races still to go, is quite a good place to be for Ingram. A good place to be for
Thank
Ingram.
you. Very good.
Thank you.
Chilton then, his teammate, taking a C this time out. As you say, I think he finished on 11th or 12th throughout the weekend and wasn't much better or wasn't any worse than that. So it was fairly average for him.
Yeah, that's been his season. He's scoring points more consistently this year, which is good. But he is not in the top 10 all that often. But he's doing what he needs to do, scoring points.
Yes, Teddy seems to think he's doing well.
Yeah, apologies for the dog in the background. He is an absolute nightmare.
Pearson, his teammate, a poor showing this weekend, and I'm expecting more. I want more from him. I have a feeling it's in there, very much as you say with Dexter. There could be a racer in there. This may be a little bit of first season syndrome and needing to learn a little bit better with what moves to go for. He's had some unreliability along the way, to be fair, but this weekend wasn't a good one. It's a D for him this time out.
And his teammate Halstead also gets a D. It's not really worked, I think it's fair to say. I think Halstead needs to have a bit of a reset over the summer and to come back fighting in the second half of the season and look to try and be a little bit more competitive, because it's just not working at the minute. I think this weekend is summed up by finishing behind Edwards who was running the hard tyre. It's just not really working for him.
Shades of the pace that Parfit showed last season, but in a far better car, which makes the performance much worse, if that makes sense. Moving on to the BMWs then, and two drivers top of the class this weekend for slightly differing reasons. Turkington gets an A-star for that superb drive in race 1, and then reaping the rewards of his drive across the weekend and taking that win in race 3.
Yep, a real good showing from Colin. Had to fight back, had to fight in a way he's not used to doing, which is the aggressive style driving, and absolutely shut me up this weekend in terms of my theory that he can't overtake and his racecraft is washed. It turns out that I was potentially
But you did go
wrong.
for a win for him.
I did, and it paid off. I was not thinking that come Saturday night when he'd been disqualified from qualifying. But no, he's third in the championship, and I know that I'm going to sound like Paul O'Neill here, but you cannot write this man off.
Fourth in championship, but I take what you mean.
No, he's third.
He's fourth, behind Sutton, Ingram, and Hill.
No, he's ahead of Hill.
No,
Go look at the champion.
Hill is ahead of him by 9 points.
No, he's not. He's not.
I will get on to Hill. And Hill...
Have these not been updated? Perhaps the driver's standings I'm looking at haven't been updated.
Hill also takes an A-star this weekend, taking 2 wins and a second in qualifying as well. I think I said in the review pod, you don't get a weekend much better than that.
I'm still in a tiz about these driver standings. I'm looking at the wrong ones. You're right. No. Let me refresh that. I get a tiz. No,
Hill on 192,
you are right. Yeah.
Turkington on 183.
Yeah. I was looking at the wrong. The touring car website is behind Wikipedia.
That's why I look at the TSL driver standings at the end of each weekend, because they are correct. On to the next one, right?
Well, Colin Turkington is driving his 1 Series BMW very nicely. So, on to the next. On to the next is Adam Morgan. A little bit of poor driving at times this weekend, but he has got a podium and he does seem to have found his feet with the team. It's a B for him. And his counterpart, Stephen Jelly, gets a D. Just being a bit of a jelly season, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he's had one really good showing this year at one of the rounds, which is typically what he does occasionally. And then a bit mediocre, really. Certainly being upstaged by the other 3 now.
Agreed. Should we move on to Toyota?
Yeah. Butcher, another driver getting slightly upstaged. Only a C this weekend, and certainly lacking at a bit of pace compared to Collard.
I don't think it's even slightly. I think he's being quite vastly outshone by Collard, personally.
Okay.
You think that he's got the experience of the car over Collard. He's got the experience of the championship over Collard. Yeah, I think Collard's showing up a little bit so far. It's a B for Collard. Qualified really well. Did well in race 1, only dropped 1 place, and that was to Tom Ingram as well. Race 2, he got a little bit shuffled out from a bit of aggressive racing. That does need to be worked on. He's not racing in the 90s. This is not how it is anymore. But he's doing really well in that car. It's a B for him. And Gamble, oh dear. I want it to work for him, but it's just not, and it's a C.
It's a gamble that's not paying off at the moment, is it?
Well, hey.
Thank you. Just to make a quick note, Collard is 12 points behind Butcher in the championship.
Yeah, but I kind of expect the gap to be bigger, considering that maybe it's just business on my part that I tipped Butcher as a dark horse at the start of the season. But I don't know. The thing is, okay, Sam, if I was to say to you now, who do you think is more likely to take a podium for Toyota this season?
Well, yeah, it is very close between the 2 of them, I think. Certainly in the race.
That's not picking an answer.
Let me finish my answer. Certainly in the recent rounds, I would have to say Collard, because he's shown more fight and a little bit more raw pace to his driving, whereas Butcher has been a lot more consistent.
Yeah, but if I was to say to you, at the end of the season, nobody cares who was the most consistent driver. They want to know who put the trophies on their shelves. And I think who's likely to get a shock pole, it's more likely to be Collard, in my opinion. And who's more likely to get a podium? Well, considering Collard has already had one this year, technically.
I was going to say, but who's more likely to get excluded from a race because of track limits?
Well, yeah, but I just think at the minute, Butcher is being outshone quite a bit by Collard, personally.
Okay, fair enough. As you say, Gamble C this weekend, not panning out too well for him. Moving on to the Hondas. Cook takes a B. Cook is becoming consistent within sort of like the top 8, top 10 He showed some good moves this weekend as well. It just seems to take this amount of time every single year before he picks up a little bit of pace.
I agree, and he's not picked up enough. He's not in the championship hunt,
No.
and some good moves, but also some bad moves with Bobby Thompson, which gave him a penalty.
Yep.
B Cooks. He's going to have to start delivering it a bit more soon to get his B, but at the minute, it's a B. That's fine. Moffat gets a C. Yeah, took the pain in race 1. Progressed slightly nicely in race 2 into the points. And progressed fairly well in race 3. It's the higher end of the C, but it's not spectacular.
No, certainly not. Talking of unspectacular, Powell, once again, issues going off in qualifying, going off in races as well. He needs to start driving like a racer.
Better.
With might be being a little bit harsh. Yes, he did have some good racing in race 1, and was able to fight a couple of drivers. Although we don't get to see it that often because the camera's not usually trained that far down the grid, it sometimes pans to him in the gravel, which doesn't help anyway.
Yeah, there's no hiding for the fact that he's a commercial driver. He owns the team, therefore he's got to drive. That's up to him. He owns the team. He's got the right to do that. But you do have to start thinking about. I hate to use this phrase because I think to a degree everybody on the grid deserves their place. But you think who isn't on the grid? Who isn't on the grid? Who could be in that car? Who could be doing a better job? And I just think off the top of my head, you've got Proctor, who's sat out another touring car season, which is a real shame. You've got Crease, who's just been rather unceremoniously dropped from the GT package. Go and look that up if you're interested. You've got Ash Hand sitting this year out. Whether that was by choice, it's not overly clear.
And you've got drivers that are going off to TCR. Smiley, Boardley.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And you're just looking at it thinking,
Constable.
the repair bit. Yeah, and the repair bill here as well from having to keep fixing the car. I don't know. I'm not just picking on Powell because we could say the same about Halstead to a degree.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, if you've got the money to race, that is how it works these days. It's not necessarily done on driver schools or anything like that. We know how it's been like this way for a long time. He's got absolutely every right to race in the championship because let's be fair, if he wasn't here, we would have 3 less cars on the grid potentially because we lost dynamics and he's effectively taken BTC have continued without him. Who knows?
Yeah. Tough one to call.
It is, but yeah, I agree with you. It's been disappointing and it's a D.
Moving on to Team Hard then. All 6 drivers this weekend taking a C. We'll go through them.
You get a C. You get a C. You get a C. You get a C.
So I'll just put that meme in, shall I? Thompson gets a C for brilliant qualifying. Outstanding qualifying for him to put the car 4th on the grid. Unfortunately, obviously taken out by Cook, which put a real bummer on his weekend. Up until then, I thought, okay, we're looking promising for a Cupra to stay pretty much within the top 10. And he would have been there or thereabouts if he'd managed to stay there in race 2 for a reverse grid. But
agreed.
So.
Yeah, and good qualifying, good race 1, bad race 2 of the contact, and race 3. But I looked a little bit like the red mist to come down with his incident with Osborne. So it's a C for him. As you say, it's C's all round here, so we'll rattle through them. Lloyd, fairly anonymous, but he's scoring points. He's getting more comfortable with the car. I think it's imperative that he stays next year because I think he's learning the car this year, and next year he could be even better. So I think he has to stay if he wants to get better results in that car.
Unlucky with the engine problem in race 3 as well.
Agreed. Hamilton gets a C, was able to stay on the pack this weekend and was able to do a bit of racing, which is always good. His gamble for wet tyres didn't pay off, but it's a gamble he was absolutely right to take. Boutel also gets a C, in and amongst it. Got to start scoring points soon, but a decent enough showing from him. Edwards almost got points, and for that alone I want to give an A star because she deserves the points. But yeah, did well on the soft tyre in race number 3. And Patterson also gets a C. Did well in Jack Sears this weekend. Got involved in a couple of incidents after I said he doesn't ever get involved in incidents.
Not necessarily all of his own fault.
I was going to say, what can you do when a Vauxhall Astra decides that he wants to check out your boot space in comparison to its own? What can you do? So, yeah, Caesar around the team hard. Not the greatest weekend for them. I think they've had a decent half to the season, given they've got 6 cars they're trying to run. I do think they'd be better as a 4-car outfit, though. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah, so do I. Moving on to the Astras then finally. Doble takes a C this weekend. Jack Sears winning there. He was unlikely to fall back in race 3, otherwise I think he'd have pretty much completed that Jack Sears win for the weekend. But it was his teammate Watson who benefited from it.
Yeah, Double did score points as well outright, which is really impressive. Both Double and Watson have really impressed, which is great to see, obviously.
Considering they're both names that we hadn't really heard of coming into the start of the season, they've done really well.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, and also, as we I think we both to a degree wrote them off, that they've got rid of Crease and Hand, who have both done pretty well for 2 people that we'd never really heard. Well, we never heard of, let's be frank, we hadn't heard. Watson a little bit more so, but
and expand into a 3-car team.
Yeah, absolutely. They've done well, PMR. We questioned at the start of the season, and I think they've done really well. So fair enough. Fair play to them. Aaron Taylor-Smith finishing that trio with a D. Some bad driving standards this weekend from Taylor-Smith, which is a shame because he wasn't able to capitalise on where the car was, where he was, and what he could potentially have achieved that weekend. So, yeah.
I think you might have just missed out. Watson actually got a B for taking Jack Sears' win. Just to add
apologies.
That in there. That's okay, mate. Shall we get on to our predictions then?
Yes, let's. So, you got a point straight off the bat. Well done.
I did. I was very pleased on Saturday. It's the first time that we've got a pole position point this season between the 2 of us.
Congrats.
And it was a bit difficult to look anywhere else apart from Sutton, which was why I was so surprised you went for Turkington.
It's BMW track. I'll be going for Turkington or Hillock-Croft. So,
okay. Fair enough. And then I thought Sutton taking pole, sit in, wait for the first race win to come around, and then it didn't happen. I was like, I was gutted.
Didn't. You went for wins for Sutton, Ingram, and Rowbottom, which meant you got a grand total of 0.
Nothing.
I went for Sutton, Morgan, and Turkington, so I did get a point for Colin Turkington. So that's great for me. We both got the Jack Sears completely wrong. I went for Patterson, you went for Pearson, and it was obviously Watson. I was closer than you were.
You were close, yeah.
But who cares?
Not close enough.
Yeah. In the general predictions, I did quite well. So I went for Cameras to out-qualify Sutton, which now doesn't look so clever.
No.
Although track limits, I was thinking, okay, he deletes a couple of laps, puts pressure on himself, but there you go. Auto to score, which actually race 3 changed everything for me because at that point Gamble
was struggling for you, and then came through clutch basically, and all 3 of them I think finished 8th, 9th, 10th, or 9th, 10th, 11th.
9th, 10th, 11th thing. He did a Gunderwan and came good at the last, so happy with that. And then a non-finish for a title hopeful.
You didn't expect it to be Sutton, though, did you?
No, I thought it would be... Honestly, I thought it was going to be Ingram.
Okay.
Because he's not really had any bad luck this season. I honestly thought it might be him. But no, I called that one, and that was fantastic for me. You got one.
I got one,
you had 3 Napa podiums.
Which I thought going into that final race, maybe Camish might snatch a podium. But no, he dropped off the pace. Toyota for a podium. I thought once Collard had put it 3rd, I thought, okay, we might see a bit of racing here from him. But as we said on the review, those top 3 of Sutton, Hill, and Ingram are just a cut above.
Yep,
and then
agree.
Ingram outscoring Sutton. Yes, I did benefit from him not finishing in race 3. It may have been very close in race 3 if he had continued. But yeah, benefited from that despite that.
Yep, well done. And then in terms of the safety car bingo, I went for 5, you went for 3, and there were 2.
Yeah, you were ruining that at the end of race 1, weren't you?
Yeah. I was hoping if it had rained in race 3, who knows? But yeah. Which means that it's as it was at the top. You still have a 1-point lead over me. You're now on 14, and I'm on 13. So all to play for at the halfway stage.
Very much so. We'd love to hear a few ideas. If anyone wants to make some suggestions for that extra spot at the end of the weekend, or the end of our predictions after our general ones, for something that we want to make a prediction on later in the season, we'd happily take it into consideration. I
Yeah,
think when we go up to Knock Hill, we might have to incorporate, obviously, being at the track and how many Scottish flags we can see.
yeah, we might have to do that indeed. Yeah, I would agree with you on that. Next time at Croft, we're probably going to do advert bingos. We've not done that for a while, unless anybody's got a better suggestion. So, as
Yep.
Sam says, do get in touch if you've got a better suggestion or a different suggestion for us to consider. Otherwise, it'll probably be back to Sad Donkeys and Danny Dyer's latest TV drama.
Don't forget Carol. Carol and that Sun Life.
I can never forget Carol and her egg to release. Yeah.
Oh dear. But yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Who you thought was your top driver of the weekend? Who flattered to deceive? And we'll be back again in around about 5 weeks' time with the driver grades. As we've mentioned on the last pod, there will be plenty of podcasts or little mini ones to keep you entertained in the off season with our 10 minutes with or 10-minute take. We haven't decided on a title yet, have we?
Probably should do that.
Yeah, we'll get around to that.
And we'll be doing a midway season driver grades pod towards the end of the summer break.
Yeah,
I'm trying how to say that with words. Yeah, towards the end of the summer break.
Prior to coming back for next race at Croft.
Oh, good. Our words are failing us now, aren't they?
Yeah, it's halfway through the season. They need to recharge in the summer break, mate.
Yeah.
We've hope you enjoyed it so far. Please do leave us a review, leave us a like, leave us a comment as well. We love to hear them. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll be back again soon.
Any final thoughts before we sign off?
No, because I was positive midway through last season, I think, when I might have been leading, and I'm not going to say anything more because I don't want to jinx it.
You had a 5-point lead at one point last year.
Shut up.
You completely blew it. My final thoughts are...
Great. Excellent. Brilliant.
Thanks. No, I'm actually probably... No, that's not true. I can't say that with a straight face. I was going to say I'm more interested in the Jack Sears than I am the actual title, but But I will say the Jack Sears is probably one of the most competitive I can remember.
Oh, it's for me, it's far more entertaining than the independent title this year.
Yes, I agree with you on that entirely.
Yeah, so, the fact that we've got 4 or 5 drivers in with a chance of winning Jack Sears is something that we haven't seen for a little while, and it will be interesting to see how that rumbles on throughout the rest of the season.
Right. Bye.
Bye.